always helps when you take the mic off. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to BWTM Sports and Gaming. Always helps when you take the mic off. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. There you go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to BWTM Sports Gaming. We're going to get straight into this one. And it's about Danny Garcia and Errol Spence. We know the fight now has been signed. I'm just talking to one of the guys that we might be bringing on tonight in about an hour. We're going to talk about Danny Garcia and Errol Spence. Fight signed November the 21st of 2020. We hope that fight's going to go ahead. We do know also that Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, who's going to fight at the end of the year, now that fight's been postponed until February 2021. So, for those of you looking at for Oliver McCall interview, due to circumstances beyond my control, and without giving too much away, Oliver was unable to do the interview at the time. These changing times and all sorts of things that are going on at the moment, that it's totally understandable, and they will be rescheduling when it's possible. You can read into that how you want. So, this Danny Garcia situation here with Errol Spence. Now, I've always liked Danny Garcia. I like he's not the greatest boxer in the world, but I like him. He's one of these guys who's not great at any one thing, but he seems to be pretty decent at everything. You know, and I've always liked Danny Garcia, his heart, his guts, his willingness to fight anybody. And, you know, a champion in his own right. And doesn't need to scream and shout. He's one of the quiet guys, just gets on with his business. And he lets his dad do a lot of the talking. And his dad, his pops does go out and says a lot of things, a lot of outrageous things. But that's to build hype and sell tickets, of course, because Danny's not going to do that. And they work in a very good cop, bad cop sort of relationship. And I think that works well for Danny Garcia. Errol Spence, for me, I like Errol Spence. I'm a fan of Danny Garcia. And there's a difference. I like Errol Spence. I appreciate what he does as a boxer. But I'm not a fan of Errol Spence. Not yet. Because I kind of feel the Spence thing's kind of forced upon me. If you get Danny Garcia, I guess because I've seen Danny Garcia fight a lot longer, but I guess the Spence thing's been kind of pushing. Oh yeah, he is the bogeyman of the division. Well, what makes him the bogeyman of the division? Well, he is, and don't question it. He is the truth. Well, why is he the truth? What makes him the truth? No, don't answer it. Don't ask any questions. Don't even logically try and put it together. He is the truth. He is what he is. He did what he did with Mayweather in sparring. He did what he did with Broner in sparring. He's the man. That's it. Don't ask any more questions of it. It's like the days when people used to say Mike Tyson was the baddest man on the planet. Well, okay, Mike was the baddest man on the planet. But who did Mike beat to get the title to be the baddest man on the planet? Surely you would have had to fight the baddest man on the planet to get the title of being the baddest man on the planet, right? That's just kind of my logic, and I know it was for promotional reasons. It was always about Mike Tyson being the baddest man on the planet. It was just a promotional gimmick, you know, that people fed into because Bill Caton and co. really did promote Tyson in a spectacular way, knocking bum of the month out, bum the week out. He was just knocking guys out, and he just put about a really terrifying image about what Mike was about. So you were terrified about Mike before you even got to really know who Mike was, and if he could really fight. You were terrified of him. You understand? I'm not saying Mike couldn't fight now, but the build up to Mike, and even if you go back and look at the documentaries where they said, well, you know what, the aim was, it didn't matter if this guy could fight or not. As long as the image was that Mike was knocking all these guys out, that's the image that was put across, you know. So, and that's it. And that was how Mike was built up. And yes, Mike won fights, and yes, he was the youngest heavyweight champion of the world, undisputed. Yeah. I know. I'm sure somebody will argue me down about it. That's not what I really want to get on about. What I want to get back onto is this whole thing of Danny Garcia, right? And I'm going to give credit out to Fight Hype, and I want to give credit to Fight Hype for two things. Because if it wasn't for Fight Hype, a lot of you don't know, but if it wasn't for Fight Hype, I may never have got into the world of boxing. It was Fight Hype that gave me the opportunity to get into boxing. And the opportunity I got was I saw an advertisement. They were looking for guys. And I said, you know what, I'll do it. It's voluntary. I got involved. And Ben Scott, shout out to Ben Scott, wherever you are in the world today. Shout out to Ben Scott. He gave me the opportunity. I used Apollo James Jackson's camera at the time. And I got in there filming. And I remember, if you look back at the Chisora versus Hay fight, if you look at the documentary Beyond the Ropes, or whatever it was, I'm featured in, I think, the third episode of it. You'll see, not featured, but I'm in it. You'll see bits of me floating around. And I just jumped. It was just the first event. I just jumped into it and got involved with it. So just shout out to Fight Hype, because Fight Hype did if you look on YouTube now, there's a collection of videos of Spence and Garcia talking about one another when asked questions. And I believe, I could be wrong about this. I could be completely wrong. I'm sure somebody will come out from somewhere and tell me something different. But I believe that Errol Spence is the golden boy of PBC. I believe he's the golden. Don't ask me why, but I believe he's the golden boy. So they said, you know what? This is the guy, regardless of whether this guy can really fight or not, he's going to be the bogeyman. He's from Texas. He's the bogeyman. Whatever he says goes. And whatever he does. That's it. And it seems to me almost like he's a law unto his own self. Because for me, if you're a golden boy, you really need to be looking after your golden boy and not having him doing interviews where he's half drunk and stuff like that. And people like to turn a blind eye to things in boxing and not really give it the attention until a guy's either laid out flat on the back, or they're in hospital somewhere, or they're dead. That is what boxing, unfortunately, is what boxing is. Nobody really wants to talk about those situations, those things. Does he have a drink problem? I don't know. But, I mean, a guy being done for drinking and getting into a car accident, that didn't happen by him having a glass of Coke, unless Coca-Cola or orange juice, unless it was spiked with something, right? Otherwise, we've seen Spence at certain events where he's been drunk and talking all sorts of nonsense. And you've seen it on a couple of videos. There was a video where they asked him when he started fighting and stuff, and he didn't even know what he was incoherent with what he was saying. So how much drink was that? Was he taking at the time? People were like, ha, that's funny, Spence, and he was laughing. But deep, dark, behind closed doors, what the hell is going on there? Who's his handlers and who's looking after him? If you're putting some stock into Errol Spence, then surely you'd look after him. I remember having a conversation with Stacey McKinley, or was it Leo Muhammad? One of the two of them were talking about handlers. And handlers were people that would make sure they wouldn't lose sight of where that fighter was. Wherever that fighter was, that handler was. So there's no way in hell that Spence would have been in a situation where he got himself spiraling out of control in the car, and that wouldn't have happened, because they would have kept him in check. They'd have kept him in check. And that's why I suspect someone like Anthony Joshua's got handlers. That kind of money, that's an investment. You need to have handlers around a man like that. You know what I mean? Even probably Tyson Fury now, when you get to that end, Canelo, them kind of guys need handlers around them, because otherwise you don't know what they're going to get up to. You understand? So, handlers. I've gone slightly off track to come back on track. Now, while all this has been going on, and the Spence story's been pushed, that Spence is this, and again, listen, this is no disrespect to Spence. This is no disrespect to Derek James. I love Derek James. He's my brother. And I don't believe trainers are magicians. And I don't believe trainers should be responsible for what a fighter does outside the gym if the fighter decides to do what they want to do outside the gym, right? The trainer's job is to make sure that fight is in the best possible condition and tactically spot on for the fight. But at the end, the fight has got a responsibility for his own actions inside that ring. So we're fed all the Spence. He's a bogeyman. He's this. He's that. While Danny Garcia's been ticking on doing what he's doing, watching all this stuff, and I'm sure because they're both PBC guys, it probably isn't too cool to go around saying, you know, PBC have put a lot of money into this guy, and you know he almost threw it down the drain, or you know he's not as good as everyone's put him out to be. You know, for Danny Garcia to say that, he knows much words. It kind of doesn't do himself any favors when the guys who write the check for him are PBC. Do you understand what I'm saying? You have to kind of be a kind of company man, if you get what I'm saying, not to really speak out or turn in that way. You can disrespect your guy and say, yeah, I'll beat him, I'll knock him out, blah, 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 blah. If you start talking about stuff in that way, yeah, the paymaster's not going to be too happy with you. They're paying him good money. So Danny Garcia's got a kind of creep in the way he's talking about certain things. However, that being said, when Danny Garcia's ever asked a question about Errol Spence, not the YouTube channels now, when Danny Garcia's asked a question about Errol Spence, yeah, he's all right. He's cool. He's good. Then we had the Mikey Garcia fight. The Mikey Garcia fight, and I go back to the Mikey Garcia fight. The Mikey Garcia fight was the fight you expected Spence to come out and actually put it on, really put it on Mikey Garcia and get him out there with them body shots and this and that, right? The famous body shots. And at no point in time did those body shots look like they were going to drop Garcia. Even when Derek James was imploring Spence to really put it out there and getting him out there, he couldn't. Now, I don't know if Errol Spence is struggling with the weight and in that fight was a problem. I don't know. Because subsequently after that fight, he wasn't impressive against Mikey Garcia, despite what everyone says about, you know, he was showing us he could box. No, the guy's come up two weight divisions and talking about he sees something in you. That's the man you need to be taken out of there quick time, or at least beaten up so badly that, you know, and it wasn't that sort of dominant performance. So there was a problem with that. When a man's throwing a complete kitchen sink at you and he's still there, there's a problem. Thank you very much. I'm cool, everybody. So, when a guy's throwing a complete kitchen sink at you, and you're still there over 12 rounds, you've got up 2 weight divisions, and you see this, you've seen something in Spence, and that happens, and then we have, I won't call them the apologists, but the certain brigade of people that want to start saying, oh, well, Spence was showing us he could box. And why does Spence have to show us he can box against a guy who's come at 2 weight divisions? Surely Spence has to show he's the bogeyman, should be destroying a guy like that. But if you're going to call him the bogeyman, so it's not doing what it says on the can. Saying you're bogeyman, that happens. Then he goes and fights Sean Porter. Again. Sean Porter moves in straight lines. Sean Porter this, Sean Porter that, Sean Porter this. What happened? As far as I'm concerned, Sean Porter beat you. As far as I'm concerned. And I like Spence, and I like Porter. I won't tell you I'm a fan of Sean Porter. I like both guys. I lean probably more towards Porter because of what he's done in his career, and you know, he's not putting himself out to be no bogeyman. I'm not really lauding it in that way and walking around like I am the bogeyman. Spence is no bogeyman, and he's no truth. There is no truth yet in Spence. Let him get past. Let him beat Danny Garcia, and let him beat Thurman. Yeah. Then there might be some half truth in it, right? But to call the man the truth, and then to say that he's a bogeyman in the division, I'm struggling with this. And while all this is going on again, Danny Garcia's gone on and fought Porter, he's gone on and fought Thurman, right? He's had those fights. Unified champion, beat Amir Khan. You look at the resume of the guys that Danny Garcia's fought. Eric Morales, Amir Khan. You look at, and that was when Khan was rated, I think, the #1 fighter in the world at the time in his weight category. Yeah, he was ranked number 1. He was ranked number 1, and he was Ring Magazine champion. Amir Khan, remember them days? Or you forget them days? Anyway, that was the same fight that I ran down to the bookies and put some money on Garcia to knock him out. But anyway, Danny Garcia is a very good fighter. Based on what Errol Spence did against Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter, Danny Garcia was an incredible threat to Errol Spence. Spence can't fight at the back foot. He moves in straight lines. He gets hit way too often. And at some point in the fight, he's going to get nailed with that left hook by Danny Garcia. And that was Errol Spence at his very best. Now he's coming back off after injury. No warm-up. No warm-up. And he's going straight in for Danny Garcia because he believes he can beat Danny Garcia. Based on what? I mean, he believes he can beat Danny Garcia. Tell you what, 2 things already has come out. Well, Thurman's already said Garcia hits way harder than Porter, and I can believe that. And the second thing is, the story's come out now that Spence wants Garcia at 152 rather than 147. It's interesting. Now, Spence is going to be fighting a guy who is equally as big as himself and as strong as himself. Very interesting. It could be arguable, but Garcia hits harder than Errol Spence. Arguable. You ask yourself the question, what would happen? What would happen if it was Garcia in the ring against Mikey Garcia? How would Danny Garcia have gone about that fight? See, as I said, so Danny Garcia sat back and watched the truth. He sat back and watched the Bogeyman. And he's saying, is this guy the Bogeyman? How can you be a Bogeyman and he had 2 title fights? How can you be a Bogeyman with only 2 title defenses? And one guy moved up. How can you be a Bogeyman? What does that? How do you be a Bogeyman in 2 fights? You win the title over Kell Brook. It wasn't like you were beating Kell Brook out of sight. Kell Brook was damaged goods when he fought Golovkin. Came back and you fought him, and Brook gave you a tough fight, a real tough fight. It weren't one-way traffic. So you got that fight. You got the fight with. I'm talking about the high-profile fights now. You got that fight. You got the Porter fight. You got the Mikey Garcia fight. None of those 3 fights can you turn around and say, "Wow, yeah, I can see why you're the Bogeyman of the division. Wow, I can see why they call you the truth." I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't see it. I don't see it. And if I don't see it, and this thing about not wanting to fight, Danny very easily broke that down as well. He says, look, fighters don't make their own fights. That's why they've got managers. Fighters don't make their own fights. That's why they have managers. Okay? Not at that level. Fighters don't make fights. Managers make fights. Do you know what I mean? So, when you look at the Porter fight, now, if you look at Porter, did he look like a guy that was scared of Errol Spence? At what point in that fight did all these guys that supposedly be ducking one another, and then they actually come to fight? When they're fighting them, don't you think to yourself, yeah, he's giving a real good fight. This isn't a guy that's ducking a guy. This is a guy that really wants to fight. At no point in time did I think that even when Mikey Garcia was fighting Spence, you think Mikey Garcia runs up on Errol Spence? Is that what you do with a Bogeyman? How many men ran up 2 weight divisions to go and fight Mike Tyson? How many people ran up 2 weight divisions to fight Mike Tyson? Huh? This is my point. When you go up 2 weight divisions to run up a man, and you run up 2 weight divisions to fight a man, you can't be that much of a Bogeyman, can you? Anyway, listen. He already has said, Danny Garcia, and if you listen to his interviews, he said, well, okay, you know, I expect a 50-50 fight between him and Porter. He said, oh, look, as far as I'm concerned, I saw the fight with him and Garcia, and I expected a dominant performance. Yeah, he boxed okay, but I expect to see more of that. So that jaw of Errol Spence really hasn't been tested in a way that Garcia is going to test it. And Garcia, if anyone's going to chin check Errol Spence, it will be Danny Garcia. Yeah, I'm saying Porter won the fight as well. So yeah, so that's my thoughts. I'm going for a Danny Garcia win here. I'm going for a Danny Garcia win. And the thing is, I've seen guys like Danny Garcia before. The way they talk, Danny Garcia is the kind of man, yeah, who won't say much now. He'll get in the gym. He knows he's got a beating, and he will train us. He'll train and train and train and train, and get himself down to it and get himself right, and just bide his time for the fight. And then when he beats you, then I see that look in Danny Garcia's eyes every time they talk about Errol Spence. You watch his eyes. It's like a guy who just doesn't believe the hype. It's like a guy that says, who are they talking about? I don't know who this guy is. I mean, he's fought guys, legends like Eric Morales. Legendary Eric Morales. You remember he fought the real Bogeyman in the division was knocking everybody out. Sorry, bring his name up again. I keep forgetting the guy's name again. I'm not very good with this anymore. But bring the guy's name up again who Danny Garcia fought. I think it might have been a unification bout. That was the guy that was punching holes in everybody and knocking everybody out. And everyone said that Danny Garcia was ducking him, or Danny Garcia was going to get knocked out by him. Danny Garcia fought him, and he proved everybody wrong. Danny Garcia's been in all his acid tests. Danny Garcia, I see now, is Lucas Matisse. That's it. Lucas Matisse. That guy there. That guy was a problem. That guy was a serious problem in the weight division he was in. A serious problem. I don't want anybody telling me, oh, well, Manny Pacquiao knocked him out. I'm talking about prime Lucas Matisse. He was knocking everybody out. Knocking everybody out. And Danny Garcia was next in line to get knocked out, according to many people. Many people said Garcia was ducking him. Garcia didn't want the smoke. Garcia this, Garcia that. So Garcia's been there before. And when I look at Danny Garcia, I see a guy that's experienced, proven, doesn't need the gimmicks or the false promotion. He's a real live dog. And for as limited as Danny Garcia is, Errol Spence and the sort of style Spence has got, because Spence ain't going nowhere, he's going to come to Garcia. He's tailor-made for Danny Garcia. Tailor-made for Danny Garcia. And if Garcia can get a little bit of movement going, he's going to give Spence even more problems, because Spence don't like movers. Spence likes guys who like stand straight in front of him. Spence does not like guys that give him movement. And Garcia's got good boxing ability. Don't sleep on Danny Garcia. He's got good boxing ability. I always thought a guy like Porter would give Garcia problems because he doesn't give Garcia enough time to think. But in this guy with Spence, he'll have plenty of time to think, because Spence is going to walk up on him, and he got that left hook, and he will get hit with that left hook. Believe me, Spence will get hit with that left hook. But that's just me. That's just me. I want to go into the comment section now, because you all got lots to say. Let's bring them up. I'm just waiting. Going to be talking to we're going to do a crossover show for you guys tonight as well. We've got a crossover show for you tonight. In less than an hour, we've got a crossover show for you. Yes, Baylor. Yeah, feel you. Spence kind of feels forced on us. See him as high top 5, pound for pound on some people's list. That's crazy, in my opinion. He is. He is. I'm with Danny. I don't believe in the Bogeyman either. He was losing to Brook before his eye went, and was lucky not to get beat by Porter. Very average in my eyes in a bang average division. Bang average division. think you better have a little chat with Manny Pacquiao about that. Spence is one of the very few pay-per-view stars PBC has, other than Wilder and Manny, who's on the last legs of his career. But if somebody could please explain to me why Spence is a pound for pound or pay-per-view star. Can somebody explain to me why he's a pay-per-view star? I'm trying to understand why he is. If somebody could give me, I know he gets gates and he's got a following, no doubt, and he does. But I want to know what makes him, what's got the X factor about Spence. I don't see no X factor in him. I don't see nothing about Spence that makes him X factor. You talk about Nassim Hamed, I see X factor. You talk about Julian Jackson, I see X factor. Do you understand? What is the X factor when it comes to Errol Spence? I've always called him workmanlike, but not X factor. You always think that he's got that, like with Spence, you think he's got that next gear. I was expecting to see that next gear when he fought Porter. But that's just me. PBC putting a lot of stock in Spence as being the future of PBC. Okay. I didn't have full faith in Spence before the car crash, yet alone afterwards. Danny can win if he don't get robbed on scorecards. We'll have to stop Spence, which is possible now that he's more vulnerable. Well, if he comes up better than he was before the car crash, that'll be something, won't it? Having said that, Anthony Crawler seemed a better fighter after he got hit over the head. I'm not being funny. If you look at Crawler's career before the horrific attack on him, and you look at Crawler after the horrific attack, he was two different fighters. You can't bite the hand that feeds you, especially if it's Al Heyman. He has no problems blackballing fighters. Spence through the kitchen sink up, Mike. He did indeed. What's up, Ingram? Yeah, bro, I'm good. I'm all good. Errol used his boxing ability to neutralize Mikey when Mikey's boxing ability was the highest, biggest asset. That was impressive, in my opinion. Mikey's assets were good in the lower weight divisions, but how can his boxing ability be an asset to him in the welterweight division, a division he's never fought in? That that's like me being a police officer, and my biggest asset of being a police officer is being able to use my gun. But yet I now sit out in a war. I'm in Afghanistan in a war, and I got my little gun with me, and I'm gonna join the army. I'm in the army now, and I'm just using my little police gun and my taser with me. Yeah. You understand? You have to come with a bit more than that, if you get what I'm saying. Mikey can't one division since he's been campaigning at 140 two previous fights. Yeah, but he did nothing at welterweight. He did nothing. 140 may be his limit. I think the knockdown was the defining factor in Spence versus Porter. Yeah, it was. It was. But then, having said that, didn't Broner drop Porter? A lightweight? Not showing us enough proof to call him the truth. Ingram, I did the same. You talk about the Khan fight, right? I put £8 on Garcia to KO Khan in the fourth. Remember, as clear as day, we usually do remember Khan fights. 50-1. Yes. Golovkin broke Brook. Errol finished him off. Indeed. Playing devil's advocate, I think Spencer's called a bogeyman because guys like Thurman didn't want the fight. Didn't want to fight when he held belts. Well, okay. Just think yourself, if you think of Keith Thurman, what's Keith Thurman's biggest weakness? Body shots. And he wants to fight a guy like Errol Spence, who's probably got the physical strength to back him up and hit him with body shots. And Keith Thurman's defense is non-existent on the ropes. So that's not a good fight for Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman has to be 100% sure he can move both ways of the ring and make sure he can use lateral movement and be able to use both hands to hit Errol with. And with that, since he had the injury, Thurman's never been the same fighter. So, yeah, I'll keep away from Errol Spence. Keith ain't dumb. The Porter fight, Tom, you all I need to know about Spence. You could be right there. Remember when they said Porter was ducking? Yeah, I know. Porter has the best resume welterweight, in my opinion. Nobody beat him convincingly, and he has fought the best in his division. That's true. Porter fight was a necessity for Spence's career because now he can call himself pound for pound pay-per-view fighter. But what makes Sean Porter pay-per-view? Again, I asked the question, what makes Sean Porter pay-per-view? Exciting fighter, yes, but what makes him pay-per-view? Porter won that fight. I think so too. I thought he won the fight, to be honest with you. Think Spence will beat Garcia, but it'll be a tough night. But beating Danny in a close fight doesn't make you pound for pound like being touted. Okay, I don't think so. But anyway, it's a tough fight even without the crash. Spence don't look or speak the same as he did 12 months ago. Spence looks like damaged goods. Look at his speech. He does. Danny Garcia is a good fighter. Looking forward to this match. I'm rooting for Spence, though. Okay. I understand. Yolanda Cortez. The beautiful Yolanda Cortez is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who don't know who Yolanda Cortez is, she's been on the show a few times. And my good friend from Los Angeles. I hope you're well, Yolanda, and congratulations with the piloting, the flying. Amazing stuff. Yeah, Spence defo seems slower post fight in speech. Okay, I don't like the Spence today. Different person since the crash. Okay, post accident. Okay, I think if the fight is remotely close, Spence will get the nod. I'll be honest, I'm more worried for Spence than Garcia due to the accident. Same here too. If Spence isn't the same as he is a year ago, he's in big trouble. He was in big trouble then. He's in bigger trouble now. Yeah, I don't see the X Factor either, but he does decent numbers in Porter fight, and that might be down to the opponent. Okay. Spence is a pay-per-view star because people feel his fights are exciting, and he had some stoppages early in his career. Exciting. Well, I don't think the Garcia fight was exciting. I think the Porter fight was exciting because of Sean Porter's style that made it exciting. I don't know. I don't know. Yes. It's covered his face. Ingram. And Mikey called Errol out and kept insisting he saw something. That's something what he thought he'd outbox Errol because he thought Errol would walk straight to him. Yeah, but if Mikey Garcia, I don't know. I wasn't impressed. To be fair, I really wasn't. Thurman's biggest flaw is his inside game, or lack of. Yeah, that's it. Mikey was after that big backhand, so nothing else. He sacrificed that over. Yeah, of course he was. He saw something. You know what he saw? You know what he saw? A lot of money. And then straight after that, he said about Pacquiao, he saw something in Pacquiao as well. You know what that something was? A lot of money. And probably everyone, all his friends around him know the joke. I see something in you, man. I see something in you. What's that? Man, there's lots of money I see in him, man. I see loads of money in the Errol Spence fight. Man, I make a lot of money in Errol Spence. Yeah, I might take a beating, but I see something in him. And after I get beat, I see something. I see over there Pacquiao. Yeah, I see something like Pacquiao. Yeah, it's all right. Don't worry. If Mayweather came back, Mikey Garcia will tell you he sees something in Mayweather. I don't believe in Spence at first, but to be honest, he's probably one of the best all-round fighters in boxing. Is he? All round? Really? I think Danny Garcia's more all-round than Errol Spence, to be honest, but I could be wrong there. He can fight on the inside, the outside, mid-range, and solid defense, and use his size to his advantage. You can't fight backing up. For sure, he can't fight backing up. Did anyone actually read the accident report? He's just fine. He's just fine. Well, if he needs to get his teeth replaced, I don't think that's fine somehow. Spence got a new grill, so of course his speech will be different. Good afternoon, everyone. Why are there people out there that you can clearly see Spence's mouth has been reconstructed with the bloody his teeth being taken out and new teeth have been put in, right? And people are still saying there's nothing wrong with Spence. He came out. You know what? I tell you what. There's some people that I believe that car flipped over 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and Spence just walked out from the car. Just start walking out, doing the McGregor walk afterwards. I mean, some really, I just unbelievable people sometimes. Blame his grill, really? Okay. Spence Hamza. People blow his accent out of proportion. Out of proportion. Oh my word! These BBC fanboys make me laugh. People forget that Danny's losses are to the elite of the welters, and he was dangerous champion at 140. I know that. Greetings, Danny Garcia. I've just said. Hopefully, this doesn't take credit away from Bud once he beats them, with fans saying pre-accident Spence would beat Bud. He's laughing a whole lot of money. Listen. Let's get it straight now. Let's get this out of the way. I don't want to hear from you Spence fans now. You Spence fans that are so blinded, like the car turned over 10 times, and all he did was just get up and walk out. Did the McGregor walk as well. But yet the man was in hospital, in intensive care, but the guy's fine. How can the guy be in intensive care, but just fine? You know, he gets his teeth kind of like, he can't even talk properly, but he's fine. He's okay. Like, hasn't done any sparring for God knows how long. He's only just starting to start sparring now, but he's fine. He's just fine. I don't get it. He's just fine. I just got a car accident and I was injected and landed in the bush and I still walk with a limp. Spence's injuries might not be physical, but instead cognitive. Whoa, wow. Look, check that one out. In reality, Ingram, how much longer Errol will be at 147 for? He might make weight okay this time due to a very, very long camp. He's been training for a good while. But he asked Danny Garcia to fight him at 153 or 152. And Danny Garcia said, nah, bro, 147. 147. Accent is different from sounding drunk, and his movements didn't seem right. LOL. Spencer Savage, though. No effects at all. Was he in a spacesuit? Oh my word! I think that's the line. That's the line of the year. Was he in a spacesuit? Oh my word! I've actually seen Spence coming out of the car accident and doing the actual McGregor walk in a spacesuit. Oh man, we got some characters. We got some real characters. Spenceville Stadium is pre-corona and does pay-per-view numbers. Whether people like it or not, irrelevant. We can't attribute those numbers to Spence's opponents because they can't do numbers without him. Yeah, I agree. I do agree with you on that. But I'm asking the question, why though? I know that Spence fills out arenas. I don't question that. And of course, if you're filling out arenas, then yeah, I get the pay-per-view thing there. He's bringing the gate. He's making money. But what? I don't see an X factor about him. That's my point. He's a good fighter. I'm not disputing Spence ain't a good fighter. I'm not disputing don't bringing numbers. But he's not. He hasn't got X factor. I'm sorry. He just hasn't. Got half the teeth he had. Yeah, there was this somebody on my, I remember I've been saying Bob Saunders, but there was somebody on the channel was talking about, oh no, why was I asking questions about Spence's injury? Because he was fine. This guy was really adamant there was nothing wrong with Spence. He was fine from the start. We all doctors all of a sudden reaching for phantom injuries. If he comes out and says he's fine, the doctor said he made a complete recovery, and that's it. End of it. And we'll see it on fight night. Yeah, but we know that doctors can be paid off. We know that Al Heyman's a very powerful man. I'm not suggesting that he's paid the doctors off, but I mean, you don't have to be Stevie Wonder. I mean, even Stevie Wonder can know that the teeth that Spencer's got in his mouth now are not his own. You know, so he could have died in that accident. He's lucky to be alive, let alone box again. It could have ended a lot worse for him. He was in the intensive care unit. Oh, God. Hello, I'm out. This is turning to stupidness. I suppose that's a selling point for pay-per-view. How is Errol after the accident? The Spence haters in the US will be rooting for Danny Heavy. I guess so. But I don't. Why would there have to be haters to be against? Danny Garcia's proven. He's proven a lot more than Spencer's. LOL. Errol isn't a superstar. He's a solid fighter with a good fan base. Spence was gaining traction, to be fair. If Rona comes back, boxing's absolutely done. I think so, too. Good afternoon, Mr. Finkley. Top of the day. BW Tim already. How you doing, brother? Being fine at home is good, but when you're in a boxing, it's a different story. And that's the thing. Because if people are saying Spence is going to beat Danny Garcia, right? Then let's stay with that and say that Spence is in top form and he's the best he possibly can be, and there's no injuries, and he's fine. And if Danny Garcia is to turn around and to beat or knock out Errol Spence, I hope nobody comes back and says, well, it was because of the injury and because of Corona and because, he should have had a warm-up fight. And no, because that would be unacceptable. I want to see how Spence reacts when he gets hit. There you see. There it is. Right there. Denise Ward's. That's what we're going to know about the truth. Right there. I don't see an X Factor in a lot of fights. I think Crawford is better. He's one of the best at his weight class, though. Yep. What's the topics for tonight's show? Well, the topics for tonight's show will be... Ooh. 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 Well, the topics of tonight's show will be, for the good of the sport, Errol versus Crawford must happen. It would be criminal if it didn't. Right. So here's what the situation is. We have our man over from a combat sport. He will be coming over tonight to do a show with us. And I have got one of the topics I spoke about was branding in boxing. Former IBO light middleweight champion of the world, Richard the Secret Williams, and he was a damn good fighter in his time. He wants to talk to me about branding because he's something that he spoke to me about after I did the branding video, and he said, I would love to talk to you about it because so I said, yeah, come on the show and let's air it out and see what it is. So it'd be good. Beg you to bring FIFA back at midnight. We'll post everywhere. We need to bring a team back from the dirt. Bro, have you not been watching that Lionel Messi has been managing LA Galaxy for the last God knows how long? I don't know where you've been. So, yeah. Salute to Ronald Finkley. Right, so I'm going to get off this at the moment. I'm see if I can get either Richard Williams in or Combat Radio in. So one of the two will be in the show, in the house. I'm not getting notifications. If you're not getting notifications, I would suggest that you click the bell, check the bell icon, and make it all. Only after the stream. Oh, wow. So, yeah. So, we'll do that. We'll come out this show, and we'll have 2 more shows for you tonight for sure, definitely. Right, so join us shortly. It'll either be Richard Williams or the other Richard, or Raphael from Combat Radio. So stick with us. We're doing a crossover tonight. Speak to you soon.